The human body contains 206 bones, but Thomas Hale did not learn that from a book, or from a teacher, or from any classroom lesson whispered over a slate. He learned it by counting, slowly, carefully, over years spent walking the red Georgia soil of Belmonte Plantation. By the spring of 1847, Thomas had counted the bones of 17 people. 17 souls who had vanished from conversation, from ledger books, from memory. Some had been buried whole. Others had been scattered by time and careless concealment. But the earth had not completely swallowed them, and Thomas had not forgotten them. Thomas arrived at Belmonte when he was 12 years old, purchased at auction in Augusta, separated from his mother without warning or explanation. The memory of her hands slipping from his never left him. From that day forward, he understood something about the world. People could disappear in an instant, and no one would be required to explain it. At Belmonte, enslaved people came and went often. Sold south, the overseer would say casually, as if speaking about a shipment of cotton rather than a human life. But Thomas began to notice something troubling. Some of those who were supposedly sold south left no wagon tracks, no trader visits, no farewells. They simply stopped being seen. The first grave he found was an accident. He had been digging fence posts near an old magnolia tree at the edge of the property when his shovel struck something that was not wood and not stone. He dug carefully, heart pounding, and uncovered human bones. There was no marker, no coffin, only hurried burial. Among the remains, he found an iron key ring holding 7 rusted keys. He reburied the bones exactly as he had found them, but he kept the keys. He did not know why at the time. Perhaps it was the first choice he had made since being brought there. Perhaps it was instinct telling him that what was hidden would matter someday. Over the years, Thomas paid attention. When heavy rains eroded a drainage ditch and revealed part of a skull, he quietly covered it and memorized the spot. When foundations were dug for a new tobacco barn, he noticed disturbed earth beneath the structure. When the old spring house on newly acquired land was rebuilt in 1839, he understood from the depth of the digging that they were not just building, they were burying. By 1847, he had mapped 17 graves in his mind. He knew where Sarah lay, the house servant who vanished after overhearing a heated argument in the colonel's study. He knew where Marcus lay, accused of theft and never seen again. He knew where Eliza lay, who had nursed the colonel's wife through fever and disappeared weeks later. And he knew where Gerard Finch lay, the white landowner whose property had mysteriously transferred to Colonel Fairburn shortly before Finch died in what was called a riding accident. On March 11, 1847, a stranger arrived at Belmonte carrying a leather satchel and a letter with a poorly resealed wax stamp. He introduced himself as Edmund Voss, a lawyer from Savannah investigating irregularities in the Finch land transfer. Thomas noticed something immediately. The man's walk suggested long travel, yet his boots carried only fresh dust. It was a small detail, but Thomas had survived by reading details. Voss spoke calmly, politely, asking about boundaries and deeds, but his eyes were searching. On the second day of his visit, Thomas was assigned to accompany him along the eastern property line. They stopped at the old spring house. Voss ran his hand along the deep stone foundation and remarked how excessive it seemed for such a small structure. Thomas's pulse quickened. He wondered if the lawyer sensed what lay beneath.